This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Wednesday, December 4th. This is Africa 54. Higher temperatures in the Indian Ocean cause deadly rainfalls and mudslides in East Africa. Ghana turns to public education to help change perceptions about people with disabilities. And a Nigerian smart card maker taps into the lucrative move from cash to plastic. Residents in East Africa being devastated by the rainy season, which has triggered flooding and mudslides that have claimed the lives of more than 200 people, and the heavy rains are not yet over. Weather experts say this year's deluge is due to a phenomenon called the Indian Ocean Dipole, which can cause a rise in water temperatures in the Indian Ocean of up to 2 degrees Celsius. This leads to higher evaporation rates of the East African coastline, which results in more rain inland. VOA's Ladza Hoke reports.
About 3 million people across East Africa have been affected by rain, floods and mudslides in recent weeks. Many people have been killed, about half of them in Kenya. A local fisherman was rescued after being stranded on a small island for 3 days.
I'd gone there on Friday for fishing. When I was going there was no water. Water flooded suddenly, and in 2 minutes, I was surrounded and couldn't cross.
Homes have been demolished and crops destroyed. Damaged roads and bridges make it hard to reach remote villages and deliver aid. Residents are leaving flooded communities in search of dry ground. A man who recently buried his wife is afraid the floods could bring her coffin out of the grave.
Maybe today, when more water comes, we may remove my wife's coffin from the grave. We are putting big rocks on top of the grave to prevent the coffin from coming out due to these floods.
The whole region is facing food shortages.
We don't have farms to cultivate, and even our cows were taken away by the floods of waters, so we have a big problem.
Heavy rains caused devastating floods in parts of South Sudan, forcing communities once displaced by violence to move again. The United Nations mission for South Sudan in Akobo is struggling to provide the basic services for thousands of affected people.
This area here is being low-lying. The water's coming down from Ethiopia as well. It's a real tragedy. We'll go back and have a talk to the humanitarians.
The World Food Programme is already sending some food through British-based Oxfam, but the UN representative for South Sudan says the scale of the need is bigger than anyone thought.
Yes, we can provide emergency support now, but these people are going to rely, or have been relying for years and years, on harvests. Those harvests are like to be badly affected, so there's going to be less food that they're going to grow themselves, and therefore they might be more dependent on food coming in from outside.
Rain is common in East Africa between October and December, but not in such abundance. Scientists are blaming the exceptionally heavy rainfalls on the warmer water temperatures in the Indian Ocean. They lead to higher evaporation of water and subsequently more rain. Zlaritsa Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
An investigation is underway in Sudan on Wednesday following an explosion Tuesday that triggered a fire inside a Khartoum tile factory. At least 23 people were killed and dozens more were injured. Early reports indicate a gas tanker fire initiated the blaze.
When the fire happened, we were near the factory. We went out for breakfast and we felt a quake. We tried to enter, but we were surprised by the fire. All the workers rushed and fled the scene of the fire.
A police official, Mohammed Al-Khatemi Hassan, says a technical mistake occurred while the fuel truck was unloading cargo. Sudan has suffered from various industrial accidents in recent months, raising concerns about the adequacy of its health and safety regulations. Fisherman Modeste Traoré has lived his whole life near Lake Wenya in Mali, but the lake is beginning to dry up due to rising temperatures, and now it's threatening the local way of life. Jason Albano reports.
As temperatures rise, a lake in Mali is slowly evaporating. And with it, hope for Modesty Traore that his kids will one day become fishermen like him.
If things go on like this, I don't think our children can become fishermen. Personally, I don't believe in it anymore. But we are working on ways and means of making sure the water from the lake does not completely disappear.
The 56-year-old has lived his whole life by Lake Wenya. Its fish have provided him and his 14 children with a regular income. About 12,000 others, including fishermen, farmers, and herders, are also dependent on the lake.
From August to September this year, there was a lot of water, and we were very pleased. But in just a few months, half of it evaporated. We fight against erosion by filling up bags with sand, which we put in some areas, but that is not an immediate solution.
Experts blame the rising temperatures on climate change. According to some reports, the lake has shrunk by 20% since 2017. To make matters worse, the lake is located in the Sahel region. It's a region the UN calls one of the most environmentally degraded in the world. It says temperatures there are expected to increase 1.5 times higher than the global average. AIDS groups are working to change local farming practices, improve water management, and fight the effects of global warming. If they fail, Musa Savagoda, a local coordinator for one of the AIDS groups, says it could spell the end for life on the lake.
If they don't change, in 5 years the lake could disappear. 5 years.
Nowadays, Traore raises cattle. He says he can no longer catch enough fish to feed his family.
That was Jason Albano reporting from Reuters. Now, for 13 years, Ghana's disabled residents have had many legal protections. In part 2 of our series marking the United Nations Day of Persons with Disabilities, VOA's Kwame Asante Ofori explains why public education is needed to help change perceptions about people with disabilities.
You want to know what it is like, what a pinprick is like, you need to prick yourself. Yeah. So there are sometimes we have some students who are sighted, but they are in the education of the blind learning. Yeah. One of the exercises they do for them is to blindfold them, okay, and then ask them to move around. Right. So when you go through that exercise, you really appreciate what it is like to be blind. It comes with education. You need a lot of education. That is what we can also do to help them. The university has the responsibility to take care of these things, the first responsibility, and the university is trying its best to do it.
I believe parents should push more education on their kids with disabilities. A lot of schooling. If you want to hide knowledge from a person, it will definitely be in a book. When you hide that knowledge from a person in a book, even after 20 years, they can refer to it. So they really have to push them, because someone with a disability receives an education just like an able-bodied person. It will prevent people with disabilities from being cheated.
We are actually like superheroes, like people with disabilities, because the moment biology, some part of your body is not working, like all that forces that go to that part of your body is kind of sticking and added to something else. So it means you're a little bit more powerful than every normal person. So you have to find that strength. The society has made people to look at blind people, people in crutches, people in wheelchairs as weak people. You get it? And the only way you have to sympathize, you have to pity them, you get it? And then you have to see them as one of you, you get it? And then when people are aware of that, they make effort to also make life better for them.
There are people who are disabled who have made it, and they've made it big time, better than people who are not able, who are even able-bodied people. And so what I would say is that we must continue to give respect to every human being, irrespective of the situation they find themselves in. And we must also have this in mind, that even those who are able-bodied persons can also become disabled.
So we just need to keep on pushing. And as people who are in special education, we also need to live by our examples. Okay? We have to lead in the front. Show people that we are actually dedicated to what we are doing. Okay? The way we relate to persons with disability, likely others will also follow and do the same.
The United Nations says disabled people are the world's largest minority, affecting nearly 1 billion people. Excellent reporting there by VOA's Kwame Asante Ofori. The estate of former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe says he did not have a will, but left behind $10 million, 10 cars, a farm, and several homes. The family's lawyers say they are still searching for a will, but if one is not found, the estate will be divided between former First Lady Grace Mugabe and 4 children. Mugabe died in September in a Singapore hospital 2 years after he was forced out of office by his ZANU-PF party and the military. Mugabe has long been rumored to have amassed a fortune during his 37-year rule. News of his wealth comes days after the United Nations warned that millions of people in Zimbabwe are facing food insecurity. Africa is home to 4 of the world's top 5 cocoa producers: Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, and Cameroon. However, most of the continent's cocoa beans is not converted into the highly desired chocolate because it is exported as a primary commodity. But one chef in Ouagadougou is blazing the trail in manufacturing homemade chocolate. We get more in this report from Channels Television in Nigeria.
Award-winning chef Andre Bayala is the only artisanal chocolate maker in Burkina Faso. But what makes his chocolate stand out is a blend of locally sourced ingredients.
Le chocolat Bayala, il est fait à base de produits locaux.
Bayala chocolate is made with local products. We use the cocoa pod here. We transform it ourselves all the way through to the final product. We use hibiscus flower, which we call bisap, white or red. We also use mangoes, dried mango, dried pineapple, and one of our latest revolutions, we use sumbala, which is also an antidepressant.
Le sumbala, qui joue un rôle surtout d'antidépresseur.
The most common ingredient is moringa, a leaf commonly used in cooking because of its healing properties. Other ingredients include sumbala, a condiment widely used in West African dishes, hibiscus flowers, as well as sesame seeds, ginger, and dried fruit.
En tant que pâtissier,
as a chocolate pastry chef and a chocolatier, I worked with a product which I was curious about and wanted to find out more about. I wanted to find out more about how it was made, and so after my award from the competition, I went to Geneva to discover how chocolate was made and all of that mystery that surrounds chocolate, to discover it and to bring it home here.
Bayala won the Best Chocolate Maker in Africa in 2016 in Ivory Coast. He says although he did not have the best chocolate making tools, he did have a magic ingredient, moringa, which worked its magic with the judges and continues to do so with his customers.
When you like chocolate and you hear that there is a chocolatier near you in a country that doesn't really produce cacao, it is curiosity that brings you here. And I was very pleasantly surprised because it's different from the usual chocolate. There are different flavors that really come from home, and obviously it is chocolate that we like. I don't know if I'm being objective here, but I love chocolate, and I love Chef Andre's chocolate even more.
The 47-year-old is keen to impart his unique knowledge to the younger generation.
Et surtout, le fait qu'il s'intéresse à un domaine qui n'existe pas pratiquement au Burkina.
As far as business is concerned, we don't have any competition. But you know, today we need to give what we learn back. Those who have not had the opportunity to go to France, for example, in Belgium or in Switzerland to get training, they now have the opportunity to train here.
Trained in Ivory Coast, Switzerland, Spain, and Egypt, Bayala says he will relish competition from indigenous chocolate makers and hopes to rival foreign brands in the future.
Our thanks to Channels TV in Nigeria for that report. You're watching Africa 54. We'll be right back.
Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. 22-year-old Opleru Grabe is a graphic design student from Ivory Coast. He's also the creator of Zuzukwa, a collection of emojis that reflect African culture, social expressions, food, and tradition. He started making them in 2017, inspired by everyday life on the streets of Abidjan. The emojis have been downloaded around 100,000 times on Play Store and over 30,000 times on the Apple Store. His work is fast catching on and was nominated in the Best App category for this year's African Talent Awards. Next up, scientists say many of the wild cousins of the crops that feed the world may offer us a lifeline as the world grapples with the combined challenges of climate change and sustainability, feeding an increasing population. A new report details the results of a major global effort to prepare agricultural crops for climate change, collecting the seeds of 5,000 relatives of the crops that we eat. Wild relatives offer a largely untapped source of genetic diversity for climate-proof crops that are threatened by extinction due to rampant deforestation, climate change, urban sprawl, and conflict. Although about 6,000 plant species can be used for food, less than 200 varieties are widely eaten, and only 9 make up most of the world's total crop production. And finally, the rapper Drake was revealed as the most streamed artist of the 2010s by Spotify on Tuesday. The Canadian star has racked up more than 28 billion streams, with his most popular song, One Dance, played 1.7 billion times alone. Drake beat Ed Sheeran to the #1 spot, although Sheeran had the most streamed song of the decade with Shape of You. And that's what's trending today.
Here in the United States, a new phase of the impeachment inquiry into U.S. President Donald Trump is underway on Capitol Hill Wednesday. As the investigation moves to the House Judiciary Committee, the Democratic majority House of Representatives is expected to hold a vote by year's end on whether to impeach the president for allegedly leveraging almost $4 million in U.S. aid to Ukraine for his own political benefit. VOA congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has the look ahead.
On the 26th,
the House Intelligence Committee gathered the facts.
This report chronicles a scheme by the President of the United States to coerce an ally, Ukraine, that is at war with an adversary, Russia, into doing the president's political dirty work.
Summarizing a 3-month investigation and weeks of witness testimony.
So we followed the president's orders
to deliver its report to the House Judiciary Committee. That panel is chaired by Jerry Nadler, who will lead a hearing Wednesday to determine if the president's actions are impeachable offenses. A case Republicans on the committee say hasn't been proven.
This will be the first impeachment that has ever had with honestly not just disputed facts on why they want to impeach the president, but actually contradicted facts on was it a quid pro quo? Was there actual pressure? Was there anything actually done when the 2 participants on the call, the President of the United States and Mr. Zelensky, both said nothing was wrong?
Trump called Democrats' impeachment hearings a hoax.
I think it's very unpatriotic of the Democrats to put on a performance where they do that. I do. I think it's a bad thing for our country.
Opinion polls show Americans are divided over impeaching President Trump, but Trump's abuse of power warrants the serious move, Democrats say.
Are we prepared to say that henceforth we must expect from this president and those who follow that there will be a certain amount of corruption in which the national security of the country will be compromised, in which the oath of the office will mean that much less?
Abuse of power could be one of the articles of impeachment drafted by the House Judiciary Committee for a full vote in the U.S. House late December, setting up a trial in the Republican-led U.S. Senate.
The country cannot afford this new tactic. Obsess over impeachment and obstruct everything else.
But the president sees the looming Senate trial as an opportunity to defend himself.
It will be fair in the Senate. I would love to have Mike Pompeo. I'd love to have Mitch. I'd love to have Rick Perry and many other people testify. But I don't want them to testify when this is a total fix.
The trial likely to begin early next year At least 20 Republican senators would have to find Trump guilty of impeachable offenses to trigger his removal from office. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Capitol Hill.
Donald Trump faces a process that could end with his removal as President of the United States. The ongoing impeachment hearings in the House of Representatives marks the beginning part of what is prescribed by the U.S. Constitution. In today's installment of American Impeachment, VOA's Steve Radish takes you through the responsibilities of the House of Representatives.
First steps toward any impeachment starts in the House of Representatives. It is the lower but larger of the two chambers of Congress, which passes laws and provides oversight of how government is run. Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution says the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment. That is all the guidance given as to how to conduct an impeachment. No rules, no parameters.
The impeachment process at this point in time is like a grand jury process. What they're doing now is they're just gathering evidence. They're going to make charges.
And with vague standards of high crimes and misdemeanors, impeachment is a political process, not a criminal process.
Impeachment is an inherently political process. They're not, the actual existence of specific crimes is really up to the Congress to determine.
In 1868, it took just 3 days for the House to go from a committee resolution to the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. When Johnson defied Congress by firing the Secretary of War, the House overwhelmingly voted to impeach. Investigations of a break-in at Democratic Party headquarters at the Watergate Hotel eventually led to an impeachment inquiry of President Richard Nixon, a Republican, facing charges of obstruction of justice, misuse of power, and contempt of Congress. Nixon resigned in August 1974 before the full House could vote on articles of impeachment.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Democrat Bill Clinton was impeached in 1998 for lying under oath about a sexual affair with a White House intern. But he remained in office because Clinton was acquitted after a trial in the Senate in 1999. Charges of perjury and obstruction of justice passed mostly along political party lines in the Republican-led House. Now, Democrats hold the House majority. Impeachment hearings against President Donald Trump center on his conduct of foreign policy, linking U.S. financial aid for Ukraine to a public announcement by Ukraine's president of an investigation into Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, and Biden's son. If the House approves articles of impeachment against President Trump, the case goes to the upper chamber of Congress, the United States Senate, for a trial. A guilty verdict means removal of the president. Unlike the House, where Democrats are in control, President Trump's party has the majority in the Senate. Steve Reddish, VOA News.
Be sure to join us Thursday for another in-depth report on the impeachment hearings that could end with the removal of Donald Trump as President of the United States, when VOA's Steve Reddish explains the U.S. Senate's role in holding a trial. In our technology report, Secure ID, a Nigerian manufacturing and technology company, makes bank cards, mobile phone SIMs, and voting cards. It already has businesses in 21 African countries and is looking to tap further into a growing appetite for smart cards across the continent. Neka Chile details their operation.
At a manufacturing plant in Lagos, employees are hard at work producing smart cards. Sub-Saharan Africa lags behind other regions in moving away from cash to plastic money. But the need for secure electronic cards carrying sensitive data is rising, especially in the banking sector. Secure ID, a Nigerian manufacturing and technology company, is hoping to provide that service, producing bank cards, mobile phone SIM cards, and voting cards. Its founder, Kufu Akikugbe, started the business 12 years ago.
If I were to go to a bank at that point in time to request for a card, it could take 3 months to 6 months for my cards to come. And so that was a gap that I saw in the system. And the idea came, and the idea was to actually set up a world-class manufacturing plant that offers smart card solutions and digital solutions, not just for Nigeria, but for Africa.
Secure ID provides smart cards for businesses in 21 African countries. As well as Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and Rwanda have all implemented policies encouraging a move away from cash to tackle fraud, theft, and money laundering.
I think there's still a lot of work to be done. We would like to strengthen our footprint across Africa and do a lot more things than we are, because a lot of our market is still within Nigeria. But we feel that the same gap and unmet need that we saw 12 years ago in Nigeria is the same gap that seems to exist in other African countries.
Akikube declined to give an estimate of the potential size of Africa's smart card market. Secure ID currently produces 200 million smart cards a year.
That was Neka Chile of Reuters reporting. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.